Lab number 235. In this lab we continue development of our comrade application, and now it's time to focus on UI. So we'll add some classes, styles, and so on for our app to look much nicer than it is now. We'll start with giving our app a specific icon instead of default one. We will use this icon as a logon, and you can find it under the lab 235 files. The file name is icon.png. So basically you can copy it and open the navigator to navigate to dev workspaces, then our project, which is comrade, and basically under www folder there is an image folder in which we will pass this icon. It will be also used for thumbnail, so we can remove the thumbnail and rename our icon to it, just like this. So next thing is that we'll actually use this thumbnail instead of strange image in our login page. As you remember, we have this div style with the icon inside, its icon image here. It was automatically created by Ionic Creator. We don't need all that stuff. So we'll have just div with class something like logo. Let's call it main logo. But before doing that, let's also include image inside of this div. So we'll have this thumbnail PNG file as our image inside the div class main logo, and now we can just open the style CSS file and add some styling to it. Let's have the width and height to 135 pixels. And then an image itself a bit smaller, let it be 125 pixels. And we will have a border for 5 pixels, so let it be just a solid white border. We will center it using margin auto and also display block. And let's also have the border radius to 100 pixels. So what I'm trying to achieve is actually, I would like to have a picture, our thumbnail image, and white border with the 5 pixels from all the edges. So this is the rounded border, and basically we will try to move this picture down to get it overlap our login box, our box where we will type the username and the password. So let's take a look how it looks with mfp Preview, and we'll take a look on it in the browser. So this is exactly what I was trying to achieve. Basically, as you remember, we have here username and the passwords, and this image will actually replace part of this box. So let's try to move it down. Something like margin bottom to 120 pixels, but of course with minus. Yeah, something like this. We also need that index to make it visible. And let's also add position relative. Yep, just like that. We also need to add a bit of margin from the left side with a minus, so it will be displayed from a start, something like -10. Yeah, it should be enough. Now let's work on the form itself. Let it be something like 300 pixels. And of course, margin auto to make it centered. Yes, 300 looks okay. And we will also add the specific width on our list. So somewhere on the list here, let's try to edit as HTML and add some div class, something like inner form. And let's take a look on the CSS file to add code for inner form. So our inner form should be less. Let's have something like 250 pixels. And of course, margin auto. We can actually use even something like margin left instead. 30 is not enough, let's have 50. Exactly. If we will remove the names of the our username and password fields, we will have even better result. It's now under inner form, under list. This is our username, and the second as password. So we removed actually labels, and now we have just the logo and then the input fields. So next step is that we actually need to add some kind of background color. Let's have it something like stable. Now it probably should be stable BG for background. Yes. And exactly the same for second label. So now we need to add the placeholders here because it's not really visible where to type the names and so on. So let's do it on the input field. So here we'll type username. And in the second one, we'll type the password. Or even let's do some stars here. Just like this. Let's also add some spacing for our main logo. So something like margin top equal to 30 pixels. Yep, just like this. So basically we have our login window ready. Now it's time to move all the changes to our actual project. But really before saving this and moving to our workspace, let's do a quick fixes for default styles that were applied by Ionic Creator. So first of all, we will remove this style haze 40 from spacer. We don't really need this hard-coded style here. It's much better to have it inside the spacer class. So for that, we will include the spacer class in our CSS. just like this, and put it back. "40 pixels, just like this. So next thing is that we have an inner form. We also should have an outer form. So let's create it. We don't need margin here. We just need 300 pixels. And then we need, instead of hard coding the form here, we will need to assign a class to it. So in our case, it will be outer form, just like this, and we will need to add margin outer to this outer form to make it centered. Yep. Everything else should be okay with the login screen. So now we can back to sources, and actually we can save this style CSS, modified style CSS, by clicking on it with the right click and click and save. So actually we need to go to our workspaces, comrade, and www.css, and replace the local style CSS file. After that, all the changes will be applied in our style CSS. So as you can see, everything is already here, and we will need to add a few changes to our index. So first of all, labels. Let's remove them and put placeholder to their values. So password to password and username to username. So next thing is actually removing the spacer style from here. Adding class to form, just like this, and then adding div before Ion list with inner form class. Let's save this, and we also forget to check how our error message will be looking like. So let's take a look on that. We have it here. I will remove ng-show for now, so we will test it and just will add the message. Just like this. We also need to remove ng-height and those two during the test. Yeah, so this is our error message. Of course, it should be centered. So let's style it with the specific class like error message. Let it be like this. And let's add this class in our CSS. Simple text center. Just like this. So now we can save it once again. And we can go back to our text editor and add the class here. Just like this. So now let's verify that we've done everything successfully. We can close the browser and try it once again with mfp preview. So yep, as you can see, everything works well. Our error message also looking well. Let's try with the valid username and password. Yeah, and next step for us is actually to work on comrades. So here we need to start with moving this search field down there to the header or subheader. It really depends. probably subheader will be better, and for that let's open the Ionic Framework docs. We will need CSS, subheader, so this is how it looks. And we will copy that, and we will also need to add has subheader to Ion content. So let's take a look on this. Okay, so HTML file, comrades, has subheader. We'll just copy this label from here to here, replacing what we have inside, and add additional class here, has subheader. A bit more styles here, so item input inset, and here we will have a wrap instead of everything here. So this will enable us to make the inset input field inside the subheader. Let's take a look on that. I will close our previous emulation and launch it once again. So user, password, and we got the list. Excellent. Just as we expected. So now it's time to work on this specific list. Let's take a look on it. So first of all, we have here padding class applied. So if we'll remove that, we'll remove that padding, and it will be looking much nicer, of course. The second thing that we can do is this list, instead of these square thumbnails, we can make them rounded. So for that we need to work on item thumbnail left. So basically we'll copy this item thumbnail left, and what we will need inside, we will need the image element inside. So we'll do something like this. Item thumbnail left image, and we'll set the border radius for it to 50%, which should make our images rounded. Yeah, exactly as we expected. So now we can save this style CSS file again. In case you cannot do that, just the same way, save and replace the original CSS. So now the names. Basically, we will need to focus on these H2 and P elements. First of all, let's focus on H2. So basically, let's add some margin, like 20 pixels from the top. It should be enough. Yep, something like this. And font size, probably 18. Yeah, 18 looks okay. So I will copy that and pass inside our CSS file. Because we are overriding default values, we should also include important here. And here, yep, and of course we shouldn't forget to remove the padding. So for that, let's do it right away, so not to forget it later on. We should have it something on global level. Yeah, here and content padding true. And the same for the details page, we'll also need it later on. Okay, we can also remove the border. It will probably be much nicer. or just make it white. Just like that. So for that we need to replace the item. Let's do it here. Just in general, item border color white. Of course, it's not the best practice, and you should remove it directly, specifically for this specific screen and so on, because CSS is working like that, but just to simplify the process. Basically the last thing, we also need to work a bit on our footer and header with the colors, but we will do it later on when we will finishing with the colors, because we will try to override them, override the default values with the custom ones. So now we should go to the last screen, which is the details screen. And here everything looking almost cool, except maybe we should add some icons to make it better a bit. So for send email, call to office, call to mobile, and send SMS. For that, let's go to Ionic Framework, to docs. We need CSS, and basically we need a list. And something like that. So we need an icon in the list. Let's make it left-sided. So the idea is that when we specify the item for the list, we should say that there will be icon left, and then inside we should add an icon. But of course it should be right. Sorry, it should be right. So let's try out. Let's probably do it right away in a browser. Right here. So we have an item. Item icon right. And then the icon itself. Something like that. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. Probably the color should be changed. Let's make the icon color positive. Yep, and then we will play with the colors a bit more. So yeah, we can implement the same in our text editor. So for that, we need to look on our details page right here, and we have the send SMS, send email, call to the office, and call to mobile. And all of that we should have class item icon right. And in all of that we should include the icons. So let me first include the icons. And also add the classes. Just like this. So actually this icon looking cool for a message, for send SMS, but of course not really well for email and so on. So we'll need Ionic Icons. And we'll select the icons from that list. So we need something like that for calling to the office. Let's have this icon for SMS, because it will be all in one style on Android, for example. Yep, and then basically call on mobile. And the last thing is send the email. Just like this. Okay. So we can log out and close this and try to do again the preview of our mobile app. Yep, and right away you see the result why changing the global variables is bad. So basically, let's go back to style CSS, and instead of this changing the whole item, let's change the specific thing, something like no border, and then assign this class to our list right here. And basically the same here in main page. And we also forget to check the background of those items, so we need to do that it should be stable. So login page, item input, table, background, and same here. Let's try once again. Yep, so user password. We still have actually borders, so let's check why it's like that. Probably it should be on each item rather than on whole list. Yes, exactly. So let's go and change that. And also on the details page, of course. Basically, that's all. Let's check again. So user and password. Okay, excellent. So we have our items, and something went wrong with the icon here on send mail, but everything else seems to be okay. So let's check that send email. Yes, of course, we missed the icon sync here. So let's check with the wrong password first. And valid credentials, excellent. Now user and password. Excellent, we have our list. Going inside, icons. Excellent, let's go back and log out. Yeah. So basically on this step we have our app styles, the basic ones, but we also need to change the colors. And for that, please open the lab235 files and copy two CSS files located there from your host machine and pass it inside workspace's comrade www.css, just like that. And then we need to add actually them to our index file. We will use non-minified version during development for now, and basically what we will do, we will replace with those new styles default Ionic styles. So it's called Ionic app CSS, just like that. So next thing is that we will add styles to our icons. All of them will be positive. Let's also modify our main page subheader. Sorry, footer, of course. Let it be bars table. And we will have also our navigation bar, instead of bars table, bar balanced. Just like that. So now we can preview the changes and see the result. Okay, so we need to center the title and to change the placeholder color. So let's start with the placeholder. Let's go to our CSS and type something like this. WebKit input placeholder. And the color will be 959595, and of course it should be important, something like that. So next up is our title. For that we will go to our Ion navbar and set link title to center, and just like this. Let's, by the way, save changes in the CSS file. Okay, so let's try. Wrong username and password, cool. And now the right one. Okay, we have our list. Probably we should do the opposite colors with the footers. Probably the button should be white and footer should be the same color as the header. Let's change that. So button in our case will be light and bar will be balanced. Okay. And here everything looks cool. So let's save the changes and try again. Okay, the footer looks cool, but the bottom is a bit strange. Let's try to remove the styles and see how it reacts on that. No, it's still the same. Let's take a look on that button. It should be actually normal. Let's try again. Yeah, if we will remove everything, it will be okay. So let's just move the button light from it. And try the last time. So let's try from the beginning. So the wrong passwords, invalid credentials, excellent. User password. We are having the list, we are having the white button there. Our list looks cool. We have the details, they're looking also cool. And we are able to log out. Excellent. So basically on this step, we finished our lab number 235. And so we'll continue adding a bit of logic like search and some additional features like filters to make the uppercase of the first letters, first symbols of the first name and last name, and so on in the next labs. Thank you.